You will not believe what went down in my neighborhood last week. Seriously, I thought I had witnessed every brand of suburban chaos imaginable. Borrowed sugar, barking dogs, kids playing demolition derby with their scooters. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compared to HOA Karen's grand meltdown. You know the type, mid-40s, immaculate hair that probably has its own schedule, and a personality that screams, "I run this town." I was having a peaceful morning, coffee in hand, when I noticed her across the street giving me a glare so sharp it could slice concrete. At that moment, I had no clue my quiet little fence was about to ignite a scandal worthy of a true crime documentary. There I was, trimming my hedge, humming some completely off-key karaoke tune, just vibing with life, when suddenly Karen comes marching over like a one-woman thunderstorm. I swear she could have been auditioning for a role in Twister 2, The HOA Strikes Back. Phone in hand, voice rising, she shouts, "You can't have that fence there! It violates HOA regulations." I blinked, utterly baffled. My fence? The one I built last year? Perfectly measured, straight as an arrow, practically a work of art? Apparently, it was now public enemy number one. But instead of a passive-aggressive email, like any ordinary busybody, Karen goes nuclear. She calls code enforcement. Yep, the clipboard brigade. I figured they'd stop by. Glance at the fence, shrug, and leave. Easy. Except, of course, that's not how this saga goes. Karen had apparently turned my property into her personal investigation project. When the officers arrived, she was ready with charts, photos, and what looked suspiciously like a conspiracy map linking my fence to the decline of civilization. They circle my yard, taking notes like detectives in a crime drama, and Karen's practically vibrating with anticipation, convinced she's seconds away from victory. And then it happens. One of the inspectors squints, points across the street, and asks, "Ma'am, is that your pool?" You could hear the record scratch in real life. Karen freezes. Her phone drops a little. That perfect hair starts to rebel against gravity. Turns out her precious backyard pool, the one she bragged about all summer, had never been permitted. Not even once. The same woman who'd been quoting HOA codes like gospel had a full-blown illegal pool sitting behind her house. The look on her face? Absolute cinematic perfection. Her righteous fury evaporated in an instant as she stumbled for words, trying to recover the crumbling remains of her self-appointed authority. "Well, that's different," she stammers, her voice trembling like she's trying to reboot mid-sentence. The inspector arches a single eyebrow, the universal sign for busted. "Same rules for everyone, ma'am," he says flatly. And just like that, the self-appointed sheriff of suburbia becomes the prime suspect. Her eyes dart everywhere, scanning for an escape hatch, maybe calculating how quickly she can vanish into her illegally built cabana. Meanwhile, I'm sipping my coffee like the villain in a slow-burn drama, savoring every second of poetic justice. But oh no, it doesn't stop there. Karen, red-faced and sputtering, vows to fight this injustice and take it up with the HOA. In my head, I'm already drafting the next newsletter headline, "HOA President's Pool Declared Illegal. Neighborhood Applauds." The inspector, barely hiding his amusement, hands her a stack of retroactive permit forms and politely suggests she get compliant. The sigh she lets out could power a wind turbine. It's the sound of decades of bottled-up control issues collapsing in real time. My fence, meanwhile, stands tall, unbothered, glorious, practically smirking. Karma, it seems, has impeccable timing and a wicked sense of humor. By the time Karen stomps back to her front door, muttering about tyranny and injustice, I'm waving to the inspector like we're old pals. Thinking of adding a few more fences, I joke. You know, for symmetry. He laughs, because even he knows neighborhood drama is the lifeblood of his job. As the dust settles, I sit back, victorious, coffee in hand, and mentally score the round. Fence, 1, pool, 0, that's when it hits me. Justice doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it shows up with a clipboard and a smirk. But just as I'm basking in my triumph, the next morning rolls in, and guess who's back? Yep, Karen, because Karen doesn't retreat. She reloads. I hear her before I see her, the click of heels, the clatter of determination. I peek through my blinds, and there she is, storming the block like a door-to-door dictator, clipboard in one hand, fury in the other. She's collecting witness statements against my fence. Apparently, it's not just an eyesore now. It's a menace to public morality and somehow, the environment. I watch her corner poor Mrs. Thompson and sweet, cookie-baking Mrs. Thompson and demand she take a stand. Mrs. Thompson blinks, then bursts out laughing right in Karen's face. The color drains from Karen's cheeks, then rushes back all at once, turning her the shade of a boiled lobster. It's glorious. I can't resist adding a little flair to the chaos. So, I sneak a small Bluetooth speaker into my hedge and cue up some dramatic movie music every time she starts lecturing. You should have seen her face. The ominous soundtrack rises. She freezes, looks around like the universe itself is trolling her, and mutters that this neighborhood is cursed. For once, I actually agree. But fate wasn't done. Just as Karen resumes her crusade, a neighborhood kid decides to test my new DIY sprinkler setup. A perfect arc of water jets straight into Karen's back. The scream that follows could register on the Richter scale. She spins around, soaked, mascara streaming down her face, clipboard hanging limp like a defeated flag. For a brief second, she looks mortal, almost relatable. Then, like a drenched supervillain, she straightens up, drenched in fury, and continues her march of doom as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, I'm on my porch, doubled over in laughter, nearly spilling my coffee, realizing that sometimes the universe doesn't just hand you justice, it hands you a front-row seat to the comedy version. I nearly spill my coffee from laughing, but wait, it gets better. As Karen storms off toward her house in a fury, fate intervenes. She trips spectacularly over her own garden gnome. Yes, the same gnome she bragged about for enhancing curb appeal. Down she goes, face first into a puddle of glorious, HOA-approved mud. The queen of neighborhood control now sits in the dirt, clutching a soggy clipboard and glaring at the heavens like they personally betrayed her. Just when you think the scene can't get any more cinematic, her golden retriever, usually the model of obedience, decides this is his hero moment. He leaps onto her back, tail wagging, tongue everywhere, turning her humiliation into a slapstick comedy worthy of an Oscar. By noon, the entire neighborhood knows. Word spreads faster than gossip at a bake sale. Neighbors stop by, not to complain, but to watch. Karen spots them gathering, her face twisting between rage and sheer disbelief. One teen even shouts, "Should I live stream this?" And suddenly, the HOA president becomes the star of her own viral disaster. And just when I think she's learned her lesson, she doubles down. She calls an emergency HOA meeting. Because apparently, mud, public humiliation, and canine betrayal aren't enough. She needs a stage. I watch her march to the clubhouse, dripping mud like a tragic soap opera heroine, ready to declare war on my fence. Inside, she tries to rally the board, ranting that my fence is a neighborhood disgrace. The board listens quietly, until one of them reminds her that the inspector already reported her unpermitted pool. The silence that follows is divine. When she tries to argue that she enforces the rules, another board member replies deadpan, "Yes, except on yourself." By the end of the meeting, Karen leaves not with victory, but with an email politely reminding her about proper permits and humility. I stroll back home, coffee in hand, and admire my perfectly innocent fence, untouched, undefeated, and now practically a local landmark. Between the sprinkler, the gnome, and the golden retriever, karma has clearly developed a sense of humor. But oh, it's not over, because somehow Karen decides she can still reclaim her dignity. Fast forward to the next morning. I'm sipping coffee when I hear a strange mechanical hum. I glance out the window, and there she is again. Armed with a ladder, paint cans, and her trusty clipboard, she looks like a suburban war general on a mission. Her target? My fence. "Karen," I call, "that's my property." She snaps back. "I'm enforcing aesthetic compliance." I almost choke on my coffee. She climbs the ladder with determination, right as my sprinkler system kicks in again. A geyser of water hits her mid-climb, sending her flailing like an inflatable tube man. The result? A muddy, dripping, paint-smeared disaster. My fence now looks like a piece of abstract art, and honestly, it's beautiful. But chaos loves company. Mr. Patel from 3 houses down decides to help. He grabs his garden hose and joins the fun. turning Karen into the center of a full-blown suburban water fight. By the end, she's covered in paint, streaked with mud, pearls askew, hair plastered to her face. And then the cherry on top, her cat. The same cat she's always paraded as refined and disciplined. Out of nowhere, the feline launches from a nearby tree, lands on her shoulder, and digs in its claws like a furry symbol of divine retribution. She shrieks. The crowd laughs. Someone films the entire fiasco. Within hours, it's destined for the internet's highlight reel of karmic justice. Still trying to save face, Karen drags herself home, calling a contractor under the guise of official HOA business. The workers show up, glance at my now iconic fence, and immediately realize they've been tricked. They leave shaking their heads, while the neighborhood practically throws a block party celebrating my fence's survival. Neighbors snap selfies beside it, adding signs like "Fence of Justice" and "This fence survived Karen." Even the HOA board gives me a discreet thumbs up. And as the sun sets, I sit back on my porch, coffee in hand, watching Karen retreat indoors, dripping, defeated, and plotting her next move. Her cat perches triumphantly on the fence, tail high, like it just claimed victory for all of us. I take one last sip and grin. "Well," I whisper, "that was fun. Same time next week?" Because in this neighborhood, chaos, comedy, and HOA drama aren't accidents, they're traditions. And trust me, everyone's watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button. Every click fuels the next great suburban showdown. And don't forget the bell icon. You won't want to miss the next tale of poetic, paint-splattered justice.